Hello, hello everyone. I believe that we should be live right now. I'm going to double check my live feed, make sure the audio and everything is good. It's looking good on my end, but then again,
Hey everyone, this is Brandon with Akiya Kominka.
whoops, not that one. This one here.
I'm gonna double check my.
Yeah, it's going. It's going all right. It is going all righty, but I need to change my settings to my headphones. I've got it on my speaker right now. There we go. Yep, there we go. Okay. I actually got started on time. I absolutely cannot believe it. That's utterly amazing. Well, I had a. Well, that's disappointing. I set up a poll for you guys, and it's not appearing. So I'm going to have to redo the poll. So give me a minute, I'll get that up. What? Now my phone is running my live stream. That's weird. My phone automatically starts running my live stream. That's kind of cool but creepy at the same time because I didn't set it to do that. Okay, I have a poll question for you guys. Before I really get started here, I'm gonna spend a few minutes and to to get this poll going and to just chat with anybody who comes in, and I guess you could say let you know what I'm gonna be doing in this video. And for those of you who are watching this later, if you want to skip ahead through this opening part, you can. What I'm going to do is I'm either going to go to 10 minutes past or 20 minutes past. It just depends on how much information and how much chatting is going on in this opening part. But if you want to avoid all of that and just get to the main content and the point of the video, then you can jump to 10:10 and check it out. If we're still chatting about it, then you can jump to 10:20. Later on, if I can remember in the video, I'll put, or in the description of the video, I'll put it in there saying whether it was 10:10 or 10:20. You can just take a look. I see Glenn is the first one in the chat. Hey Glenn, it's good to see you. By the way, I do have something important to tell you, and I'm going to tell it in this chat because it's not just for you. It's kind of like, it's mainly for you, but it's for everybody. And it's about the drawing that I had many, many months ago. I know that everybody's forgotten about it by now, but I haven't forgotten. It's stayed on my mind. It's just that the combination of things that have happened over the past half a year or so, or even more than that, man, it's really got me distracted. School and my health and all of that stuff. There have been so many different things to just keep me away from finishing some of the things that I started, and that's one of those things. But I will say, Glenn, that it's good for you. The information is good for you regarding the contest, the giveaway. So I'll get to that in just a minute. But the question that I'm going to put in the poll is, if reincarnation is real, then would you come back for another life on this earth? That's the question. And I'm going to have four options here. First one is definitely yes. Second option is perhaps it kind of depends. And let's see here. A third option would be I had four options before. I can't remember what the third option was, but the fourth option was never. Absolutely not. Or once is enough. Never. Once was enough. That's what I actually put. Once was enough. Let's see here. It kind of depends. Oh yeah, probably not. Probably not. There we go. That's the question. See if it pops up on the screen here. And by the way, yes, it is working. I've got my live stream on going through my desktop program, my desktop software program. So I'm able to put the chat on the screen. So anything we put in chat will actually come up on my screen because I've got it going through my software. So that's a really cool feature that I was able to add. I've been getting better at using the streaming software here at home because I'm sure you guys don't know this because I haven't shared it with you, but essentially I have been streaming live baseball games. I am a Houston Astros fan, and I've been watching Astros games ever since I was a kid. Now, I do believe that there's a lot more serious stuff going on in the world, and we shouldn't be distracted with sports all the time. We shouldn't care so much about sports that it consumes us. But this is true with anything. I think we should take everything in moderation. And I realized that no one was doing the live stream for the Astros in English. And since I'm looking for ways to build a YouTube channel, but I can't really go out and do much, I still don't have the time, the money, and the physical ability to go to my house and do renovations and stuff there. And as a result, this channel has kind of stalled. As much as I want to be able to create some content to share with you guys, I don't make a lot of stuff. And the reason I don't is because just as an example, there are some channels. There's one guy in particular that I could use it as an example, but I'm not going to name him because I don't want to just fleece him, even though he might even deserve it. But I'm not going to judge whether he deserves it or not. But when I got first started at the very beginning of my channel, I actually connected with somebody through Instagram, and this guy had a small YouTube channel, and he basically married a Japanese lady. I don't know a whole lot of info about his personal life and how he came to Japan or anything like that, but we connected and we were messaging on Instagram, and I looked at some of his videos on YouTube. I never really cared too much for his videos because they're very simple. He just stays behind the camera and talks and walks around. I've never seen him on camera, not once. And the thing is, at first I thought he was friendly, but I quickly realized that shifted, and he just wanted to tell me what to do. He wanted to bully me, tell me what to do. And when my videos first started coming up on YouTube showing my house, I would go out to my house, and in the beginning, of course, there was still some stuff left at my house that the family had left behind. And I don't know about you, but one of the things that fascinates me about having an Akiya or buying an abandoned house in Japan is that quite often they will leave stuff behind. Now, this can be good and bad, okay? Some of the things they leave behind could be practical things like dishes and cups, and Glenn, you know all about that, right? You know all about the cups and dishes. Nightmares coming back to haunt you, I guess. But these things, once they're stored away, they're cleaned up, and you have a functioning kitchen, you don't have to buy anything. And that's the thing. For practical daily stuff, the only things that I really have to buy at my house, assuming that my kitchen is renovated, my bathroom is renovated, and all of that, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about daily life stuff, as far as like chopsticks and forks and spoons and bowls and cups and plates, etc., etc. I don't have to buy any of those things. My house is overstocked, if anything. I have so many boxes of dishes and things that I won't be able to keep them all. And I was thinking that in the future I might even do kind of a live stream and start trying to auction those things off, or rather just sell them, through my live stream. Maybe just do a really long live stream and, have those things numbered, put them into boxes, and people who want to buy, they can just buy it live. I can put their name on it right there. I can put their screen name on it right there, set it to the side, go to the next item. That's something I'd really like to do, because not only would people be able to get something from the house, it would also help me raise money to repair the house. But besides practical things, there are a lot of interesting things that are left behind. Sometimes they're valuable. I have found in my house a few $100s worth of money. I did find a lot of coins. Actually, I found more than $200 worth of coins. I mean, heck, I found a really long roll of 50 yen coins, and these aren't just regular 50 yen coins. There are two different types that are rare, and they're worth at least $5 each. So you do the math. It's like 160, 165 coins, $5 each. That's if I'm able to sell them all at $5 each, which I think is the minimal. If I'm only selling a few, I could probably get like $10 each for them. But if I wanted to sell them fast, I could probably sell them $5 each. And at 160, 165 coins, that's a lot of money just for those coins. The other thing is I found some bills. I found some 1,000 yen notes. I found like six. No, I'm sorry. I found about 13 of those. So that's almost $100 right there. Plus a variety of other things. So some of those things can be used for decoration in the house. Some of those things can be sold, and some of those things are just interesting, or whatever. That's the second type of thing that you find in the house. The third thing is just trash. Things that have to be thrown away. Tons and tons of newspapers. That's why you've seen me burning stuff so many times at my house. I've burned so many things. But plastics, old appliances, just junk that you can't use, that you have to recycle or throw away or burn. Out in the countryside, I'm able to do some burning for burnable items, but the plastics and some of the other things, glass, metal, stuff like that, I have to take down to the recycling area for drop off. But I guess you could say there's another type of thing that doesn't quite fall. They don't quite fall into the other categories. Maybe it's a fourth category. That would be personal items. The family didn't want all of those things, like the pictures. That's the primary thing. I found a ton of pictures, photo albums, and things. And I am planning on talking to one of the museums in Hiroshima. Maybe they would be interested in some of these pictures, because some of them are very important pictures, I think. So we'll see about that. But anyway, getting a house like that and going through those things is something that's fun to me. And in the very beginning, it was interesting and fun to go through those things. And this particular guy just started sending me these long messages and bashing me about how I was wasting time and I needed to do this and do that, blah, 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 blah. And he went so far as to start making response videos to my videos without saying it was about my videos. So if I made a video saying, I'm going through stuff in my Akiya or whatever, he would make a video saying why you shouldn't waste time going through your stuff in your Akiya. I mean, and I'm not joking, by the way. It was that bad. And there was one video that I made one time. Actually, it was a series of videos. The part 3 I made as a live video, but the first 2 parts were how to find, buy, and all of that, and Akiya in Japan. Of course, I'm not an expert. I just use my experience combined with what I've learned from other people to show you what information I have in order to help you find an Akiya. And by the way, there have been people to tell me one of the reasons they were able to find their Akiya in Japan and buy it is because they found my video. And that's great. That's awesome, because that was my intent. My intent was to help people. Okay, there was nothing in my video. As a matter of fact, I even said in my video that I'm not an expert. There was nothing in my video that said, oh, look at me, I know exactly how to do this, I'm a professional. And I never said anything like that. If you go back and look at those videos, you'll see that my intent was clear. To give you some resources, I provided links, I provided suggestions, I told you about what I did, I told you about what some other people did that I've talked to. I've even interviewed some people that are very important that also gave their perspective on their story. I interviewed Tokyo Lama, I interviewed Danny with DIY Japan, and those are the main interviews I did that were really good because they gave an alternate perspective on how they were able to find and buy their houses versus how I got mine. So I provided a lot of good value for people, I believe, in assisting them to locate and buy an Akiya, an abandoned house or an unoccupied house in Japan. And there was nothing wrong about that at all. It was just useful, helpful information. But for some reason, this guy decided he wanted to attack me on that too, and he made videos about how not to buy an Akiya. And basically, he tried to attack everything that I was saying in my video. And from that point, I just had enough. I made a couple of comments in the comment section about, why are you, assaulting my video if you're going to try to offer an alternate perspective on what I said. Why don't you be honest and say what you're talking about and reach out to me or something? But the irony was, in that particular video, he went out in the middle of nowhere. He went out like in the trees in the countryside. He went out into the forest and stood behind the camera. He never showed his face, and he just bashed me in the video, but he didn't mention me by name or anything. But it was clear what he was doing. And that kind of garbage stuff just really bothers me. But the reason that I mentioned all of that is because channels like that are just constantly putting out videos, like every single day. He and some other creators like that are just making videos every single day. Low quality. I'm just talking to the camera about something in Japan, and a lot of people are listening in and following. But I believe that for me to do that would be wasting your time and not giving you any good quality. I mean, really think about this, okay? Think about this. Wherever you're from and wherever you are, wherever you were born and grew up, just because you were born and grew up there, does that mean that you're an expert on life there? Does it mean that your opinion or your viewpoints or what you think about how to live life there, or how to experience it, or what society is like there, does it really mean that your opinion or your perspective on that is of great value, enough value to create an entire YouTube channel about it and then give that opinion to everybody? Maybe, but the vast majority, I would say no. And that's the other thing. I don't necessarily think that my opinion on life in Japan is authoritative. I've lived in Japan for almost 4.5 years. Well, actually, in total, more than 4.5 years, because I did live in Tokyo for 3 months a few years ago before I went back to China, and then I came back to Japan. So technically, yes, over 4.5 years. But still, it doesn't matter if it's 4.5 years or 40.5 years. It doesn't make me an expert. And is there really a such thing as an expert on what it's like living in Japan, or getting Akiya in Japan, or abandoned houses in Japan, or whatever, or living in the countryside of Japan? No, it doesn't make anyone an expert. I don't believe that anyone can call themselves an expert, because the thing is, at the end of the day, it all boils down to just you're giving your opinion. It's just an opinion. And I can give you my opinion, but I feel like for this particular channel, especially since I'm not at my house and I'm unable to do renovations for a variety of reasons, I just can't provide you with the kind of stuff that I want to. But because of my health and how I don't know how things will play out in the future, and since right now I'm feeling a little better than I have been due to some really strong medicine, and primarily strong medicine, I really wanted to take the opportunity to have this video with you today. And I'm not sure exactly how it's going to go, but I felt like, who knows if things from here are going to continue to go up, or if I'm going to crash again and I'm not going to be around. Because just like the title of the video, I feel that my abandoned house and I are essentially the same, and there are many similarities, and that's one of the reasons, that's the main reason why I felt attracted to the house. And I will tell you some things about my life and about my house to show you how I got to where I am and to be what I am today. And I don't know, maybe hopefully that will help you, but I feel that I haven't had an opportunity to really tell my story to anybody. And some of my friends, they know what I've been through. They know about childhood and my marriage and my family and all of that, and how I left the U.S., the things that I went through there, moving to China, coming to Japan, etc., etc. But overall, I feel like I've always wanted to be a filmmaker, but for various reasons, it just hasn't worked out. And so overall, I don't feel that life is, to me, it's not really enjoyable overall. If not for my friends, I just, I, I, I wouldn't be here. I know I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my friends. And anyway, we are at 20 minutes now, so I guess we'll get started in just a moment. If you haven't by now, I encourage you to take the poll up at the top because this is very much connected to what I'm talking about here. But essentially, I'd like to start off. Let me take a sip of coffee. Room temperature black coffee, just the way I like it. I need to. I don't know if you can see this on the camera. It might block it out. Oh, it's there. Okay, I forgot I turned that off. I had the background remover on just a moment ago, or a little while ago, but it was messing up my image too much, so I decided to remove it. Now you can see my background here with my Hiroshima Carp jersey on the wall. I forgot that I'd changed that. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, I do encourage you at any time to jump in and ask questions or make comments at any time. I don't have a particular time frame for this video. I have at least 2.5 hours free, and I know that most of you don't have time to hang around that long, so you can come and go as you wish, but I would encourage you that to, if you can, drop in and leave some questions or comments, and I'll address them as I go. But essentially, I will say this. Most of you that have been following my channel already know that I've been fighting cancer. Almost 2.5 years ago, I was just having a really hard time. I didn't have a car at that time, and walking from the bus stop in Toyosaka, from my apartment, in Hiroshima, it took basically almost 3 hours to get to my house. And from the bus stop, the final bus stop to my house was it is about a 45-minute walk. Okay, if you're driving, it's only about 5 minutes. But actually, Glenn drove my van out there for me, so he knows what I'm talking about. From Toyosaka City, or the Toyosaka town, or village, I guess you could say, all the way to my house, it's a very short drive. But walking is not quick, and it's on a incline most of the time on the way out there. But it became very difficult for me, and I was having tons of pain, and I found out very quickly that it was a large cancer tumor on my right kidney, and I continued to go downhill. And this is not an exaggeration. Just within a very short amount of time, it got so bad so fast that I couldn't even walk on a flat surface for half a block without stopping to catch my breath and let my legs rest. It was really bad, and it became very difficult to work. I struggled really, really badly, and eventually I had to stop working. I went on insurance leave, and when I was finally able to take some time off and get some insurance support, medical insurance support money. It wasn't my full salary, but it was helpful. I went to stay at my house full time, and it got really cold out there. But slowly I kind of built myself back up a little bit. I was doing a lot of work around the house. I was able to cut a lot of grass. I didn't have a tremendous amount of energy, but it wasn't bad. And, I got another message from Glenn there. But essentially, from there, I kind of went downhill again. But here's the thing. Right around that time, right after that, really kind of around the same time, I found out that the house also had a very serious issue underneath, and that was a huge erosion issue close to the center pillar that is the main one that holds the house up. And the water has been going consistently under the house, and it's caused the ground to go straight down. There's a huge hole under there, and a local carpenter, crawled under there, and he said that it looked like there was a tunnel going under the house and out across the road to the field. It's pretty crazy. And so there was a hidden problem with the house, and it reminded me of, it immediately felt like my house and I are the same. It's sitting out here alone. Nobody cares. It's all by itself. And now it's got this hidden problem that's threatening to bring it down permanently. It's exactly how my situation was. It felt the same. Glenn says, I'm sitting in front of my computer waiting for my work to give me something to do, but they're all busy today. Big event on this weekend, so lots of time today. Your house is a long walk from the shop. Yeah. Oh man, I'm glad you could be here. I hope it's not too boring for you to listen to the little discussion today, but I appreciate you being here so much. And by the way, on that note, you are the official winner of the overdue giveaway that I have, and your request for the items. I can't remember which you requested before, but if you'll remind me of that, it's yours. And when I'm able to, I will get those things together for you. Now, if you are going to be in Japan soon or anytime soon, then I would be more than happy to just put those things together and hold them for you. And then whenever you visit, I will hand them over personally myself, because I'm sure that we'll see each other again. But yeah, the house is a long walk, right? It doesn't seem like that it's a long walk, right? Whenever you drive from Toyosaka to the house, it doesn't seem that far. But when you actually walk it, it's like, man, every time you go around a corner or over the hill, you think that you'll see the intersection, right, with the light, and you'll see Toyosaka, but you just see more road and another hill, more trees, another hill, more houses. It's tricky. It's a much longer walk. It's a much longer walk than you realize. Glenn says, yay me. Yes, yay you. But you deserve it anyway. You've been a big help and encouragement for me. I'll be there sometime in the 6 months. Oh, okay, cool, excellent. Well, that's another thing. As far as the surgery that I'm trying to have to remove the tumor in the kidney, there's no way for me to know exactly when I'll be able to do that. The medicine I'm taking right now, the purpose is to try and shrink the tumor, get it off the vein, get it away from the arteries there, and then they can go in and do a surgery and take it all out and do a little spot radiation to kill what's left of the cancer. Who knows when that'll be, but it could be December. It could be as late as March or a little beyond. I don't know. There's no way for me to know. Oh, I need to add more hot water into my pour over here. This is my second cup with the same filter, so it's going to be weak. Next 6 months. That's great. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so I'm going to jump back, and I'm going to try to tell you just the important points of... Let me see if I can... I wonder if I can actually paste it in here. No, I can't. I know this sounds crazy, but when I was living in my van, I often chatted with ChatGPT, and it actually has memory. So anything that you say about yourself, you can actually turn on the memory so that it remembers that. And earlier I asked it, based on everything that you know about me, everything that I've told you about my life, could you give me a summary, a 10-list summary of the 10 most important things that you think in my life are most significant, most memorable, most, I guess, even traumatic. And this is the list that it came up with. Wow, it runs everything together. Sorry about that. It's actually a list, and it comes up and it runs everything together. But basically, it says divorce, Japan, cancer, novel, YouTube, business, friendships, language, health, childhood. Well, health and cancer kind of similar, kind of attached together. But I will go back and I'll tell you a little bit about my background, okay? And really simply, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because I just want to stick to the main things. But I am originally born in Louisiana, but when I was a baby, we moved to Houston. I grew up there until I was maybe 7 years old. I became a big fan of Houston sports and Houston teams. My mom was from Houston. My dad was from Louisiana, but my dad was working for a big steel company, and back then, all of those steel companies and all across America, even the car companies and stuff, they started shutting down like crazy. You probably already know why, because all of those went to China. And as all of those jobs were going to China, America really suffered. Many of the middle class steel workers lost their jobs and then they struggled. My dad was one of those kind of guys who didn't have the ability to adapt. He wasn't able to go learn a different skill that was in demand, and so we struggled. His first response was to move us back to Louisiana and go work at a small steel company there. That one, of course, started laying off people, so he moved us again to another place. I think we were there for less than a year. He moved us to another place in Louisiana. We were just there for less than maybe 3 or 4 months. It was insane. We moved so much. I can't even remember and count all of the places that we moved. But we went from being a really strong upper middle class family in Houston with just my dad working, really living right around the corner from my grandmother, being on a really nice. We were at the end of a dead end street with a huge yard, a big house. We had nice Christmases, great birthdays, and I remember us having the Atari when it came out, the Atari 2600 video game. We had pizza when they started doing delivery pizza. We started having that every Friday, and life was good. We had nice bicycles. I was getting like He-Man figures and G.I. Joe, and I started getting Transformers. But right around the time the Transformers stuff started getting popular, it was during that time that my family had started to struggle. It's kind of an interesting thing that I use that as a marker in my mind. But I just remember when He-Man became popular in G.I. Joe, we were still living in Houston, and I remember getting tons of toys, tons of G.I. Joe and He-Man toys. I got the big Castle Grayskull. I got so many of the characters. I don't even remember some of their names. And it was the same with G.I. Joe. I got tons and tons of figures, and especially cars and planes and stuff. I got all of their military equipment. It was really cool. But then by the time Transformers blew up and all of the figures started coming out, I think I was only able to get three, and only one of those was the bigger figure, my favorite, which was Soundwave, and the two of the other figures were really small ones, very cheap ones, and those became like luxury items for us, and we struggled. We weren't able to make it, and we kept and in the beginning we were having to move so my dad could go work somewhere, and he would do like a shutdown, what's called a shutdown, where you go in and you work overtime and you do a ton of stuff to get a job done. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, but as soon as it was over, you got laid off. That was the deal, and you knew that going in. But it got worse from there because the jobs became less and less, and my family at home, the arguments started getting worse and worse, and my mom and my dad were constantly arguing, and it trickled down to us. So the family was always arguing. There's always yelling and screaming in the house. My mom, essentially, I can't count on one hand how many emotional problems my mom must have had. She was diagnosed with bipolar and manic depressive, and she had migraine headaches and all of these issues. And despite being an actual LPN, a licensed practical nurse, she rarely worked, and she wasn't bringing any money, and we couldn't really do much because my dad was constantly, his work was like a roller coaster. Sometimes he'd be working and sometimes he wouldn't. It was literally feast or famine, And I didn't want to be around my family. I was getting abused and dumped on. I was the garbage pail of the family. I was the second son, and I'm like the artist and the sensitive guy in the family, so nobody really has any need for me. My younger sister was spoiled. My older brother was the golden child of the family, and I found out later on he's not even my dad's son, even though he named him after him. My mom was pregnant before they got married, and I believe, I'm 99% sure that she was pregnant with her high school sweetheart's kid, but he took off and left her. And she was a pretty cheerleader, so my dad really wanted to be with her, and they got married. But they didn't get married until after my brother was born. And nobody in my family, other than my mom and dad, knew that until just a few years ago when I saw it after my mom passed away. I saw it on a document, and my brother and my sister had no idea about that. But essentially, my brother is my half brother, but my dad gave him his name. And then when I was born, they just gave me a random name of some actor on TV, and they made my middle name a girl's name, which is Allison. And it's a name that's, people have always made fun of me for, especially in school. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, long story short, things got worse in my family. Home life was terrible. My mom was bringing home lots of animals. The inside of the house smelled really bad all the time because there was cat and dog dung and feces and urine all over the house. We had to tear out the carpets, and these are rentals, okay, not places we owned. These were rentals that were being destroyed because not only did my mom continue to bring all these animals home, which destroyed the inside of the house, but basic everyday cleaning, just keeping the house clean. Like, I wouldn't say that my house is the epitome, or my rental here is not the epitome of organization. But one thing you can't say is that it's filthy. It doesn't smell bad. I don't have trash sitting around. I do have too many plastic bags and medical papers and things like that on my dining room table. That's true. But none of that stuff is filthy. And when you come in here, you can take a nice breath and the air is fresh. It's clean. I've cleaned the dust. I don't have right now. The only trash that's out is the filter, the coffee filter I have right here. But our kitchen was destroyed. We couldn't cook anything. It got to the point where everything was dirty, and there was maggots and mold and stuff in the kitchen. The refrigerator didn't work anymore. The washer and dryer stopped working. We couldn't afford to have regular utilities because they were always getting cut off, and they owed back money, so they couldn't get them cut on. And so my dad would actually go out to the water meter and cut them. He would borrow bolt cutters and cut the locks and turn the water back on. Insane. He did this many times, and there were many times where my family would be out doing something. My sister would go with my mom, and they'd go out. My dad would be out trying to find work. My brother would be gone with his friends, and I'd be home by myself with basically nothing. And it was so bad sometimes that I would have like a generic box of cereal and some generic Kool-Aid, just sugar water, basically. I didn't have any milk. I didn't have any other things. I couldn't make sandwiches. I had almost nothing. So I would just pour the either water or that fake fruit juice in the cereal and eat that. It was really terrible. And so the living environment was bad. During middle school, I never went to school. They never sent us to school. So I went to primary school in Houston, but after we started moving everywhere, we were never anywhere long enough to finish that time in our lives, and we're never able to attend a middle school. I didn't go back to school until high school. And when I went into high school, I was supposed to be a sophomore. But they held me back a year and started me as a freshman to make sure that I had enough time, enough classes that I needed to graduate. So I was able to go 4 years, but I didn't graduate until I was 19. Courtesy of my mom and dad's nonsense. And luckily for me, I spent a ton of time reading. I was always reading and drawing and reading and drawing. That really helped me out. It helped me out to improve my understanding, my language, my vocabulary, things like that. And it actually helped me out when I was 17 because a friend of mine's a grandmother. He was always telling her what a good writer I was and a storyteller. We used to play Dungeons and Dragons together, and I became the dungeon master, and everybody loved my stories, so they all voted unanimously for me to remain the dungeon master, which was fine with me because I much preferred telling the stories rather than just being the player. Pause right there just for a minute. See what Glenn said. My family moved 18 times in 8 years. For me, between the ages of 8 to 10. Man, that's tough on kids. I understand that some families are like military families, and maybe they even have jobs with companies that require them to move a lot with the same company. But if the parents don't do it the right way, if they don't find some way to anchor their kids, it can really cause some problems for them, or challenges, I guess you could say, in the long term. When they grow up, they start to have issues. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I've never felt at home anywhere. The honest truth is that I don't feel home at home here in here on earth, actually. And when I say here on earth, I don't mean like if I were on some other planet or something, I would be happy. That's not what I mean. I just mean in this physical existence completely. Not really interested in it. And unfortunately, it probably has a lot to do with how dissatisfied I've been with aspects of my life going all the way back from the end of my happy period in Houston and on forward from there. If not for the occasional great teacher or helping hand from somebody special, or the friends that I've made along the way, if not for those people that came in randomly here and there, I guarantee you, I promise you, I would not be here. I definitely would not be here. And I'll get to that because, Glenn, I'm not sure if you and I talked about this. I believe we might have. I wouldn't have any reason not to tell you because you and I are kind of close, and I think that I know for a fact that I can definitely share this kind of information with you. But I'll get to that in just a moment because some big stuff happened to me later on after the end of my marriage. But going back to the Dungeons and Dragons thing, because I was able to tell such good stories, my friend was always bragging to his family and to his grandma about what a great storyteller I was. And they were going to go on a trip while I was in high school. And I really wanted to go. It was going to be a few weeks in Europe, primarily in Germany, but also in France, England, Czech Republic, and with a train trip through Belgium. I really, really wanted to go, but of course my family was dirt poor. We were living in a single wide trailer at that time, and I was in high school. Think about this. The bunk beds that they got for me and my brother when we were younger, so we started to share a room with bunk beds. I got to be so tall, 6'2", about 186, 187 centimeters or something, that my feet would be off the bed. My head and my feet would be off the bed. But that's how I slept during high school. And that single wide trailer only had 2 bedrooms, one in the front, one in the back. But there were 5 people in the house. There were 5. So my sister would sleep in the back bedroom with mom and dad. And me and my brother slept in this really tiny bedroom in the front. Now think about how ridiculous and crazy that is. All of the carpet in the living room had been destroyed by cats and dogs. There was a huge mound, like a mountain, much like that mountain that Glenn and I built at my house of dirt when we cleaned all that dirt away from the house, Mount Fuji. So we had our Mount Fuji of clothes just piled up in the living room. The kitchen was useless. Like I said, it was completely trashed, and all the dishes were dirty, and the maggots were so old in there, they were all dried and dead. There was nothing else for them to survive on. It was just a complete pigsty in every sense of the word, and it was so bad that if a social worker had just looked in the door one time, they would have taken us out of there in a heartbeat. I guarantee it. But for some reason, despite all the yelling and the regular visits from the police, because sometimes neighbors would call the police, sometimes my mom or my dad would actually call the police on each other, because of this constant nonsense, you would think that something would happen and they would intervene and do something for me and my brother and my sister. But it never happened. No social worker ever helped us out. Nobody ever recognized that the kids in the house needed help. And I really wish I could have gone to live with my grandma in Houston. If I had been able to go there, man, I think about how different my life would have been. But thankfully, my friend's grandmother recognized that I had a talent in writing, so she offered to pay for me to go to Europe. And man, to this day, I still think about that often, how that changed my life and how much I owe her for just that simple but very important gift to pay for me to go with my friends and my teachers. And it wasn't just the trip itself that was amazing. I was able to go with two of my closest friends at the time and my two favorite teachers. So it was a perfect trip. It really was a perfect trip. It was life changing. Glenn says, "Oops, 2 to 10 years old. Dad was moving up in the company. Ended up general manager sales for Australia." Ah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, also moved through 3 states. Yeah, man. I mean that makes more sense when you're in one company and you're moving up and they're moving you around. That makes sense. Hopefully, in situations like that, the parents can still try to, keep the kids grounded in some way, give them something to latch onto. They need some kind of anchor. But with my family, it wasn't like that. Essentially, my dad was running around like a chicken with his head cut off, or its head cut off, trying to scramble and find work. And not only were they unable, my mom and dad were unable to ever make good, consistent money, they weren't able to manage it either. So while we were living in Houston and he was working at Armco, he was a welder, by the way, and making good, consistent money and getting some overtime here and there. Life was good, and we had a Jeep CJ, we had a camper, like a Shasta camper we could go camping out in. We always had great Christmases and birthdays, like I said. All of that was fine. We were living on the hog, and so basically everything they were making, we were just spending it for the good old-fashioned, typical American dream type life. But as soon as that stopped, that work stopped, we began to struggle and run around everywhere trying to follow the money. But whenever the metalworking jobs stopped, there was no more moving around to get a metalworking job. My dad started going out trying to do freelance stuff. He would just go door to door. He would find some houses that needed to be cleaned or painted, and he would offer to do a wash down or painting. And at one time, he offered me $5 an hour. Okay, now back then, $5 an hour was a lot, but he said if I'd come help him paint and wash down the houses, he'd pay me $5 an hour. Well, newsflash, my dad never gave me even $1 for any of that work, not a single dollar. At one point, I added up that he owed me quite a bit of money. I would say at least $150. And every time I would ask him about, paying me, he would just blow me off. But one day I finally just decided I'm just not gonna work for him. He's not paying me. I'm not gonna work for him. And I was outside in the yard playing, and I saw this young guy pull up, kind of a teenager, maybe 17 years old, 18 years old. He had his own little car. He pulled up. My dad came out. My dad pulled out his wallet, gave him some cash, and the guy said thanks. He shook his hand, and the guy left. And I walked over to my dad. I said, well, now that you've got some cash, you can pay me what you owe me, since you paid him, because that guy had done some work for my dad. And my dad just blew up. And he said, don't I take you to get food? I mean, when last time we worked together, didn't I take you to get something to eat and get you a Coke? I told him at the time, and this is a kid talking to an adult. I said, Dad, you're my dad. You're supposed to feed me, right? And he just looked at me like I was a fool. And I said, that has nothing to do with you owing me money. You promised me $5 an hour. And guess what? He whipped me. That was his response. He whipped me. That's my dad in a nutshell. And the even sadder thing is that the very last time I brought this up to him was, I don't know, maybe when was the last time I went to America? Maybe the time before that. So I don't know, maybe 7 years ago when I was in China, I went to America and I brought this up to my dad and I mentioned, you never paid me the money that you owe me. And he goes, what are you talking about? I said, when you were washing down houses and painting and you told me you'd give me $5 an hour, but you never paid me. He goes, I don't know what you're talking about. He said I was making it up. Okay. All right. But my brother was a little smarter than that because he realized very quickly. I think he worked with my dad one day and then he realized that he was never going to make any money from him. So he went and got a job somewhere else. He never worked for my dad after that. But I gave my dad the benefit of the doubt. I worked with him multiple times. And he was even talking about what a great job I was doing. I was able to paint better than he was. And that's true. Why? Because I'm an artist. And I was spending my time drawing. So obviously my hand would be better than his just because, of the care that I take when I'm doing things. But even though those things literally happened, he denies them to this day. So anyway, moving beyond all of that, all of the yelling and throwing of things in the house, my mom was constantly breaking things. Every single night when I was going to sleep, I could not close my ears hard enough to not hear the yelling and the screaming. And then I guess you could say by the time I got out of the house, that trauma ran deep and it led me to getting into a marriage that happened way too fast with a woman that I didn't even want to date. I wasn't really attracted to her. She was severely overweight and not physically attractive to me. But she did have beautiful eyes. She had red hair and beautiful eyes. But, I really wasn't interested in her. However, she was very persistent in pursuing me. And the way that she did it was always asking me questions about myself, wanting to know more and more about me. And the thing is, I think that this is the same for most people. When you are talking with someone and all they want to do is find out more about you and they find that very interesting, or at least they seem to find it very interesting, and they keep asking questions about you, it's kind of flattering that somebody is so interested in you. And it started to make me feel a little special because this is not something that I ever had before, ever. And I began to worry that I might lose that, if she and I weren't friends anymore or whatever, that I wouldn't have this kind of feeling, I wouldn't have this kind of interest or support. So very quickly, from like the time that we started spending time together until about 3 months later, just in 3 months, I asked her to marry me. And unfortunately, she did. Considering my traumatic childhood and background and loneliness and all of that and lack of self-esteem, you can see where this is going, right? We're getting really close to the biggest change in my life. This is the most dramatic change that most all of you don't know about. And this is one of the things that I've been worried about sharing because, some people everybody responds different to information. I'm able to tolerate anything. And let's see here. Just let me take a second and look at the comment here. Glenn says, information is king, used for both good and for evil. Yeah, information is basically like a tool. You can use it to do good things, bad things. You can skew it. You can mix in some truth with lies. I mean, that's what government does. That's what social media does. Everything is controlled, even the way things are presented by people from person to person. They can make their lives seem to be one thing when they're actually another. And for those of you who have been to visit me and been out to my house and seen my situation, I feel that now now of course I'm not you and I can't speak for you and I won't do that. But I feel, it's my personal feeling, that if you watch my videos and you visit me in my house and you see my situation and everything, I feel that you would say it's pretty much similar. There's not a huge disconnect. Brandon doesn't present some kind of glorious, amazing, or otherwise unrealistic view of what his life is really like in Japan or what he's going through or whatever. I believe that it's pretty similar. I mean, there are times in the past where I've made much more of an effort to make my videos a little more, I guess, a little more streamlined, a little prettier, and more interesting, heavily edited, and that takes a lot of time. And because of my health and everything, it just hasn't been easy to always do that. But a lot of times I feel like that's so misrepresentative of the reality of the situation. So the main idea that I thought was, what's the word I'm looking for? Honest, okay. The main idea I had for my channel that I thought was honest was to try to just be honest and truthful and open. And does that actually get rewarded on YouTube and social media? I don't know. Maybe sometimes it does, but for some reason, some people have come in. I've had a couple of subscribers who, in the beginning, seemed really positive and supportive, and actually came to visit, and turned out to be controlling people. And for some reason, those people just seem to kind of come in here and there in my life. And the good thing is that I've learned how to identify them quickly and then let them go as quickly as possible. And it's sad that that's the way it is, but that's the way it is. However, there are also some people that have come in and they've continued to stick around. And of course, I'm glad they're around and I keep them around. Some are closer than others, some are further away. Like with you, Glenn, quietly wandering in the chat right now. You've been consistently there. We've chatted in a variety of ways here in person, even when I was in the hospital, through line, through email, in a variety of ways. And people like you, I'm glad that you've stuck around and you're still there. And I can't imagine there ever being a reason why we wouldn't be in connection. It's just one of those kind of relationships. I can see that you're a good guy. You're the kind of person that resonates with me and I get along with. These are the type of people that I can continue to be around. But unfortunately, in the past, as I was growing up, I had so much trauma and damage from my childhood, and it spilled over into not only getting me into an abusive marriage, but it caused me to stay in it much longer than I should have, and it caused me to collapse. It really messed up my perspective on life. And that's one of the things I would say to you. For those of you who may sometimes feel like it's not worth going on, because man, I've got, since I've been talking about my situation with cancer, my battle with that, and medicines and all of that, I've found out more and more people, either in my family or in my friendship circles, who are also dealing with cancer. And it really, I don't know how else to say it, but to say that it pisses me off. It makes me angry that so many people are being affected by disease in this life, and I feel powerless to be able to do anything about it. I've often said that if I had a superpower, it would be to heal people. I wish I could heal people. But as far as I know, I can't. And I just hate to see, especially innocent people or people I really care about, suffering. But going back to my marriage, at that time, there were warning signals, red flags that came up before we even got married that I should have I should have acknowledged. Just getting yelled at suddenly for no reason. I mean, just really, really severely yelled at in public sometimes for no reason. But I just overlooked it as, she apologized. She would freak out and apologize, and beg me to forgive her. Really weird, strange stuff. Now that I look back, I'm like, man, how could I be so broken in my mind to accept a relationship with somebody like that? Because if I were dating a girl right now and she yelled at me one time, it would be over. I would never ever date her again. Even if we were together like 6 months or a year and she just yelled at me out of nowhere for a stupid reason and she apologized like crazy, it's completely unacceptable. The reason is because, number one, it's unacceptable, but number two is I'm at my limit about being yelled at. I'm at my limit of being abused and verbally assaulted or hurt by other people. I have no more tolerance for that. And I don't think that there's any reason to verbally assault someone without good reason, okay? And the reason I say that is because, for example, if I'm in a relationship with a woman and the idea is that we're exclusive, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, or husband and wife, and she finds out that I've done something to cheat on her, she has every right to yell at me. It's warranted. Please yell at me because I did something really wrong in that situation. But if we're in a grocery store and I ask a question about, do we need to get some hot dogs for our guests next weekend? And I get yelled at because whatever reason, I don't even know what reason. What possible reason could you have to yell at somebody if they suddenly just ask you a question like that? And that's what happened to me. My fiance at the time was looking at some products on the shelf, and I remembered that we had guests coming that weekend, and we needed hot dogs. So I thought maybe we should go ahead and get them. And I said, "Oh, baby, do we need to get hot dogs for our guests?" And before I could even get that out of my mouth, she just yelled at me, "What?" I mean, just the look on her face was so angry. She yelled so loud that one of the people nearby turned around and looked at her. And then he looked at me and he just kind of shook his head like, "Poor you." I didn't know what to say, so I just walked away. Later on, when she came up to me, she was talking very calmly like nothing had happened. And she said, "Oh, did you need something? What were you talking about?" Complete psychopath. I can look back on that now and I can see that that's what the situation was. But I was so broken on the inside, I was still willing to overlook that and go through with the marriage. I would say it was the biggest mistake of my life. And you'll see why in just a moment. Glenn says, work on healing yourself and let others follow that journey. That is the best help you can often give another person, the belief that they can look after themselves based on your own journey. Yeah, and that's the reason, that's literally the reason why I want to share this, because even right now my life isn't what I would consider to be easy, there is reason for hope. The medicine has helped in some ways. Some of the early symptoms I've been able to kind of get over. The hot flashes are kind of gone. The headaches are gone. The dizziness is basically kind of gone. And that means I believe that the anemia is improving. And I don't mean getting worse, I mean getting better. That's just from Japanese language. If I translate my anemia is improving, it actually translates to getting worse. It's kind of strange, so I have to be careful how I translate things and word things. It's interesting between English and Japanese. But essentially, my energy is up a little, okay? It's not amazing, but it is much better than before. I'm sleeping okay. I've got a live stream sports channel I'm doing now, and I've only got 22 subscribers there, but there's potential. I started teaching online classes again. I was able to get rid of this cough with this strong medicine that they gave me at the local hospital in Onomichi. That cough is 99.9% gone, guys. That's a big deal. You have no idea. I had that cough for 3 months. And it was really, really, really making me feel hopeless and negative. You know, when you're having pain in your side and your anemia is high and your legs are swelling, you're having to wear compression socks all the time, your legs are black and blue, your feet look like they've been beat up, like I'm a Thai kickboxer or something. I've been kicking trees, and my feet are black and blue from edema, and you're having hot flashes, and you're dizzy all the time. You're sitting in class trying to study, but you feel like garbage, and all of these things are happening, and you can't get rid of your cough. You're alone all the time, and you're having financial problems. It's like blah, 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 blah. Everything just keeps piling on. But all of those things, every single one of those things I just mentioned, has improved, okay, and significantly. It's not, nothing is ever perfect, and this situation isn't perfect now, but it is much better than it has been. My cough, like I said, is 99.9% gone. I was able to get two different types of online teaching classes. One is a company in Japan, and I'm able to control my own schedule. I can decide what times I can teach and what times I can't. And the students can select the times that I have available. And the pay is actually more per hour than I would make if I were working as a full-time teacher in one of the local schools as an ALT or language teacher. Pretty crazy. The other thing is that I have 6 hours a week teaching business English students in China, and those pay much, much better. That has been and will continue to be a huge help. On top of that, some friends have supported me, have made some donations to me to help me out. My aunt in America, literally right now, the only family that I've been able to talk to directly. And she's the other artist of the family. She and I are the artists in the family. She's my dad's sister. But she basically gets my dad. She understands the nonsense that I've had to go through with him. But I haven't talked with my daughter, my own daughter, in over a year. I haven't talked with my sister since I was in the hospital. Shortly after that, I stopped talking to my dad. I haven't talked to my brother in over 2 years, maybe 3, I can't remember. I can't talk to any of them ever again. I just can't. And I don't believe that my daughter will ever change. Why is that? I'll get to that. But let's go back to my marriage. I got married in 1998, I believe. Yeah, that's right, 1998, around February. And right after that, we moved to North Carolina because I was going to go to the School of the Arts and study filmmaking. That was my dream, okay? But I became disappointed and discouraged when I got there because I found out that they were teaching, while they were teaching the filmmaking process, they weren't teaching any of the new equipment. And a local news director talked to me one day, and she said, I wouldn't hire you if you went to the School of the Arts. I'd rather hire somebody like you are right now, which is no experience, because I could train you, but if you go to that school, I'd have to untrain you and then retrain you on the proper equipment. It really discouraged me, and I felt like, I didn't know what to do anymore. And a friend of mine had gone to California and was trying to work in movies there. And his journey was pretty difficult. And that also discouraged me. I thought I'll never be able to make it in film. And I didn't want to go back to Louisiana. I didn't really want to be there. But my wife became pregnant. And actually, at first, I thought that was great because my dream was to have a daughter. I already had her name picked out from a story that I'd written. And I was like, wow, am I going to have a daughter or a son? Either is fine, but my dream was to have a daughter first. I had her name ready to go, but my wife had a total breakdown. She cried. She said she didn't want to have a baby. Totally crushed me. Right in front of me, she called her dad, and then she called her mom, and then she called her sister in rotation, sobbing on the phone, talking about how she didn't want to be pregnant, she didn't want to have a baby, blah, 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 blah. I went on and on and on. Made me feel once again, like she had done so many times already, with just in a span of 2 years, feel like garbage, just like my family did. So I was having to go through the same things with my wife that I went through with my family, which is, total emotional damage, verbal abuse, yelling, treating me like trash, saying horrible things to me. My daughter was born in November of 2000, and I did give her the name that I had from my story, and it was like a dream come true. She didn't really have much to do with me when she was little, when she was a baby, but from the time she was right about 2 until 7 years old, during that time, it was just kind of all daddy all the time. We spent all this time together. And I was working a lot of jobs, barely making enough money to support us, hating my work, hating my relationship with my wife, but doing my best to try to have the family together. I did try to keep the family together. I tried to I tried to make our relationship better. But my wife just, the truth is that she was a psychopath. She was a very strong narcissist personality. She would frequently say such hurtful things and then later on deny them. Just like I told you about my dad, same thing. You said this to me. I didn't say that. Just completely gaslight me and make me feel that my worldview, my reality, what I experienced wasn't real. And when you have to go through that over and over and over again, from your childhood all the way through your marriage, you start to question yourself. You start to think, my dad, my mom, my brother, my sister, all of them were denying my reality all my life. And then now I'm married to a woman who's denying my reality. And then the question pops in my mind, is it me? It, am I always just really wrong? Now, looking back, I can see that because of that experience, I'm now able to understand why you hear about, especially women. Now, it happens to men too. It happened to me. But sometimes you hear about a woman who's in a relationship with her husband or boyfriend or something, and he's beating her up regularly, and you see her with a black eye or a beaten face, and you ask her, what are you doing? Why are you staying with that guy? Why aren't you leaving that guy? And now I understand why, is because they start to buy into the lie that their abusers are giving them, which is, they're not worth anything. They can't get anybody else. They deserve this, or their reality is not what they think it is. They think that they're not doing anything wrong, or that they don't deserve that, or that they're being abused. But the truth is, it's their fault. They're the ones that are causing it. It's not the abuser. It's the victim. The victim is causing it. They're doing something wrong and bringing it upon themselves. And that's the way I started to think, was that, maybe, just maybe, I'm not the good father or husband or person that I think I am. Maybe whatever my family and my wife says about me is true. And so I began to feel worth less and less. But through all of that, the only thing that was really kind of keeping me up, because I was becoming very depressed and suicidal, and the only thing that kept me up was my daughter having that relationship, because she loved me and she just wanted to be with me all the time. And my wife had pushed me to go to counselors and psychiatrists and all these other things. At one point, I was on 5 or 6 different medications. I even had 2 medications to help me sleep, because the other medications were keeping me awake. I had one to knock me out and another one to keep me asleep for 8 or 9 hours. I had anxiety medication, I had mood enhancers, and she really liked me to be on that. My wife did, because it kept me more, I guess, docile and controllable. And she didn't have to interact with me so much, and she liked that. But I came home from work one day. I was managing at a big restaurant. I was literally averaging 72 hours a week, but I was only getting paid for about 45 hours a week with a salary. And I was so depressed and exhausted. And I came home one day, and I still had all my clothes on, my tie and everything. And I walked to the bedroom, and I collapsed on the bed, and I just said, my wife came in and she said, "Is something wrong?" And I said, "We're going to have to figure out something else, because this job is killing me." I didn't say, "I'm quitting, I'm not going back." I didn't say that. I just said, "We have to figure out something else, because this job is killing me." As soon as I said that, I was expecting, or I was hoping, I don't know why, I was expecting or hoping for her to say, well, it's okay, you'll get through this, we'll get through this, we'll find something better. I love you, I care about you, I want you to be. No, she didn't say any of that. She blew up. And the very first thing she said was, you can't quit this job. We need this job. We need the insurance and blah, 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 blah. She started lecturing me. And the funny thing is, it caused me to immediately go down to the hospital and talk to the doctor and say, I don't know what to do anymore. Because I was going to go back to my job. I wasn't planning to quit. I wasn't planning to just give up. I was expecting to get support from my wife, but now I feel like I'm alone and there is no support. But since I'm getting it from both ends at work and at home, I'm just going to have to stop working. I don't know what else to do. And so she said, are you depressed? Are you suicidal? And I said, yes, for sure. I just don't see a way out of this situation. And so they actually asked me if I wanted to stay at the hospital for a little while and do some counseling with a group there. That really made my wife angry, actually. She wasn't supportive. My managers were calling me from work, wanting to know what was going on. They even demanded one day, they called my wife, and she said, they're demanding to know what's going on, where you are, what you're doing, and you need to tell me what to tell them. And I was like, whose side are you on? Are you on my side and my mental and physical health and well-being, or are you on their side? So it was clear that everybody was just riding me to death into the grave, and I couldn't take it. So, hey, Peppy, how's it going? Thanks for joining. And long story short, during that time, my wife had gone back to university. I made an agreement with her. She said, listen, I know you really want to make movies and you want to go back to school and learn filmmaking, so here's the deal. If you'll let me go back to university and finish my degree, you can support the family, and then after I graduate, I'll start teaching. I can make a good salary. Then you can go back to school, maybe just work part-time. We can find a school for you to go and study filmmaking, and I'll work as a teacher and support the family. And I said, that sounds like a good idea. So that was the plan, okay? This was the plan that she promised me that we would do. So I agreed. She made almost no money while she was in school because she spent all of her time studying, and she withdrew from the family more and more. So anytime my daughter and I would do something together, she wouldn't be with us. She wouldn't be a part of that. The relationship with my wife got worse and worse, and it finally gets to this breaking point. And essentially, about 3 months before she graduated from university, she said, I want our daughter and I to move into another place. We're just going to go stay with my dad for a little while. And so you and I can go to counseling and work out our differences. And once everything is smooth, we'll move back. And I didn't want that. I thought it was a terrible idea. I said, I'm fine with going to counseling, but I'm not okay with you going to stay with your dad. I don't think it's useful to separate like that. I mean, we have a big house. You could just stay in another bedroom if you want to be separate or something. But she didn't want to. She wouldn't do that. So finally I agreed, but reluctantly. My daughter was calling me every night crying because she wanted to come home. She wanted to be with me. She wanted to be in the house. But her mom kept her away. Now, what I didn't know was that she had secretly filed for divorce. She had borrowed thousands of dollars from her dad. She filed for divorce behind my back and custody of our daughter, as well as child support. Even though I was the only one working, she was going to school and basically being a freeloader off of me and causing me all this trouble. She still took my daughter away. She claimed that I was emotionally abusing our daughter. It's the only thing she didn't have to prove. She could just say it. And because I was a man and she was a woman, the court believed her and took my daughter away, gave her custody, and said I had to pay her $300 a month. Welcome to America. Well, when I got served those papers by the sheriff, I was totally shocked because I was told and agreed that we will be separated for a short time, we'll go to counseling, we'll work things out, and she'll move back. That was never her plan. She just told me that to get me to leave her alone and let her go about her hidden plans. But for several months, I begged her to please stop this nonsense. Let's go to counseling. But she didn't go to one single counseling session to work out our marriage or fix the problem. And she wasn't letting me consistently see my daughter. And every time I would talk to my daughter on the phone, who was about 7 years old at the time, she was between 6 and 7. She turned 7 during the time that they were away. My daughter was consistently calling me and crying on the phone and wanting to come home, and she didn't understand why I wouldn't come get her. No doubt she felt abandoned, and still does to this day. She'll be 24 years old soon, and I'm sure that that is a deep feeling that she has inside, that I abandoned her, but there was nothing I could do. If I had gone to get her, I would have been arrested. So I couldn't do anything. America the free. But here's the important part that I wanted to share, and this is the thing that a lot of people can't accept. Whenever you share some things, some people can't take it. Some people can accept it, and they can show you some sympathy and even empathy. But some other people just can't accept it. And this is the difficult thing for me to share with you guys, but like I said, because of my health, my cancer situation, I have no idea how long I'm going to be on the earth. So I decided that I want to share it here and let you guys know that even though you might go through something very awful in your life, and it might even almost end your life, you can still make it and keep going. And I think about this time in my life often, because if I forget it, then it becomes easy to give up right now. So even though I've been facing cancer and I've had some really shitty days, I really have. There were so many times over the past couple of years that I wanted to give up. I just wanted to lie down on the ground and give up. I felt so bad, you have no idea. For those of you who've dealt with disease or cancer or other diseases, you know how I feel. You can empathize. And maybe you've even had a family member who's been in the situation, and they've said some of the same things that I've said, and you can empathize because of that. You can see it in other people. But during those times recently when I've felt like giving up, I try to remind myself of what I went through after my wife left and how I got through that. And if I can make it through that, then maybe I can make it through this. Take a deep breath here. Pepe says, I'm good, only a little sleepy. Yeah, I understand. It's almost 11:30 in the morning here. Before I get into this, I do want to take a very short break, just because I need to do a couple of things. I want to check my lesson schedule right quick, make sure that everything's looking good there. Yeah, I do have a lesson at 1 o'clock today. It's 11:22 right now, so I've got plenty of time. I'll get through this main thing, and from there it'll be kind of downhill. All the difficult stuff is, all the detailed stuff is out of the way. The most difficult thing is coming up right now, and then all the easy stuff after that. But here's the thing. In December of 2007, okay, quite a while back now, it was just a few days before Christmas. I had spent the weekend with my daughter. She was actually able to come over to the house and stay with me for a couple of nights. I think she stayed Friday and Saturday night or something like that, and she went back with her mom, who was staying with her dad, but her dad was helping her. He helped her to get a car. He helped her to get an apartment. It was ridiculous, the amount of work that she put into convincing them that I was a horrible guy. And at that point, I just felt like, man, yeah, Philippe says life isn't just or fair. Yeah, and for some, it seems to be much worse than for others. But I think there must be a reason for it. Still trying to figure that out. But anyway, I was so broken, guys, at that time. Not only was I depressed and suicidal, but I also felt like very strongly, if everybody is against me, and even my own father-in-law, who had become like a dad to me, we spent a lot of time together. We had lunches together. He told me to my face, You're like the son I never had. He had 3 daughters, and he told me, I have 2 son-in-laws. You're one of them, but my other son-in-law, he just cares about sports, and he's a very simple, basic guy. He doesn't have the ability to have deep conversations. He said, you always have interesting things to say, and you challenge the way I think, and we always have great conversations. And you're like the son I always wanted but never had. That's how close we were. But after my wife left, she turned everybody on me. She lied to them, she lied to me, and when I tried to let them know that she had lied to them, they just attacked me. They thought I was just, I don't know, trying to make her look bad or change the situation or get the focus off of me. I don't know. But the fact is that my wife, behind my back, had created this big lie that I was this horrible guy. She had spread it in her church, she had spread it in her family, and everybody just completely turned their backs on me. And when my daughter had gone, I no longer had any any way of gauging my self-importance. And of course, I didn't believe in myself. And then with my daughter slowly being pulled away from me, I began to think maybe they're really right. I mean, maybe my daughter's better off without me. Maybe the world is better off without me. And maybe I shouldn't be here. And after my wife came to pick up my daughter, I begged her one last time, just please agree to just go to counseling. Just try. Just try. And she said no. So she left. And after that, I'd already made a decision that I was going to basically test God, I guess you could say. And I said, now this is where my perspective was really broken, guys. Okay, this is what I want you to know. Leading up to what I did, this shows you how broken my perspective was. I was hopeless about life. I didn't see how it was good at all. And more importantly, I didn't see where I was valuable. And I didn't see where I was a good father anymore. I started to buy into this nonsense that my family and my wife had created, which was that I was somehow a bad guy, bad father, bad husband, whatever. And so I decided to, I guess you could say, just test God. I don't know any other way to say it other than to say that I tested God. And I said, God, if I really am as bad as they say I am, then you can allow me to die. But if I'm not as bad as they say I am, if I really do need to be here and I do have some value to be on the earth, then you will save me. And I took a revolver, I think it was a 38 revolver, which my dad had given me, ironically, for my own self-protection while I was working a driving job at night, and I shot myself directly in the stomach, right in the belly button, actually, straight in, point blank. And that's the truth. And you might wonder, how is that possible? You know, how can you do that and still be alive and still be walking around? Well, not easily. That's the truth. Not easily. Thinking about it now and talking about it and looking back to that and remembering it, it's always weird, because who I am today and who I was back then are so far removed. My perspective was so broken and skewed back then. But I'll tell you this, from the very moment it happened, and for the coming year after that, my perspective on life was completely changed. You talk about a 180-degree turn. Essentially what happened after that was my wife was aware that, because of a note that I'd given her, she was aware that something might happen, and she called the police to come check on me, or she called 911 to check on me, and the police came and found out that I had to yell at them to come in through the door because I was sitting in the recliner in a tremendous amount of pain. They came in, the policeman asked me what had happened, and I said, well, I just put a bullet through myself. I didn't say it that calmly. but they called an ambulance. Paramedics came out, and they loaded me up. It was a very painful experience. They loaded me up, took me to the hospital, and the pain just got worse and worse and worse. I couldn't do anything to get comfortable. I was in so much pain. They put me through a CAT scan multiple times because I couldn't stop shaking. I couldn't be still long enough to get a good scan. And finally, they got the scan that they needed. And I remember them saying that the amount of damage inside was unbelievably minimal. They were shocked. But essentially what had happened was whenever the bullet went into my belly button, it made like a Z pattern. It went in, it changed directions, it hit my hip bone, and then ricocheted again and went out my back. It missed my spine by maybe an inch. It didn't hit any major organs. It did go through my intestine. I think it was my small, no, it might have been my small intestine. It punctured that going in and out, and then changed directions, hit my hip, and went out my back. They actually found the bullet in my recliner in the living room. Pretty interesting. But they were able to take me into surgery and cut me open from basically here all the way down to my right below my belly button, open me up, repair my intestine. Any other damage that was there, they were able to fix, close me up. When I woke up, I was in a world of pain and very groggy, was on tons of morphine, and my family was there. My wife never came to see me, not once. She didn't come to see me once while I was in the hospital. Well, I was told that she did come to the hospital. I was still knocked out. She came, she showed her face and then left. Never once did I see her or speak with her. I kept asking if I could see her. She never came. She quickly spun that as, see, I told you he was crazy and bad, and that's why I left. That she spun it to her advantage. And that also gave her complete custody of our daughter. And from that point on, I wasn't able to see my daughter for more than 2 hours in a week. And even then, it was supervised. So every time I would see my daughter, it would have to be at some public place for 2 hours with one of her stupid friends who really hated me. So that, on top of being in a world of pain, having to be in the hospital for several months, being unable to walk for a while, not even able to tie my shoes. There were a lot of things I couldn't do. And then I lost my house. I had a house with a mortgage. I lost that. I lost my cars. I had to sleep on my brother's dining room floor for a while. There were so many struggles for me to get over. But the worst was that I couldn't see my daughter. And they brought her to see me in the hospital one time. Now think about how messed up this is. They brought her to see me one time. And I had like tubes in my nose and in my mouth, and I looked terrible. And my daughter, when she saw me, she was upset. Obviously, her dad is in the hospital and he looks pretty bad. She was upset, and so her mom decided that it's not good for her to see her dad like that. So she didn't bring her back. She didn't bring her back to see me until I got all the tubes and everything out of my mouth, and I was able to actually kind of move around and walk. I didn't look so bad. So another terrible mothering decision, just to show you how evil my ex-wife really was, how psychopathic she was. She didn't bring my daughter to see me for a long time. I even pulled the tube out of my nose. I kept asking because I really wanted to see my daughter, I kept asking the hospital staff, when can I have this thing out of my nose? And they said, well, you have to understand, we're waiting for your organs to heal. We're waiting for everything to heal. If there's an emergency and we need to have another surgery, we're just going to have to put it right back in. If we take it out, we might have to put it right back in. And I waited and I waited and I waited for a while, maybe a couple of months or something. And finally, I just thought, I think I'm okay. I can pull it out. So I did. I pulled it out. I felt like that thing was a mile long. It just kept coming and coming and coming. And it was so difficult to get it out. But finally, I got it out. They were very unhappy, but they allowed it to stay out. And then finally I was able to see my daughter again. But it's so stupid that a parent would do that. And to be honest, that has become too common in America, with women doing stuff like that, leaving their husbands, taking the children, getting money from the husband, and not letting them see their kids and demonizing their kids. And that's the other thing that happened after that. My my wife, or my ex-wife, she basically turned my daughter against me. She said many things that really affected and poisoned my daughter. So in the beginning, my daughter was calling me on the phone crying to come home, but within a short amount of time, my daughter, whenever I would call her on the phone, she would say, I don't have to talk to you if I don't want to. Mommy says I don't have to. What's with the disrespect? What's with the attitude? Why the hate? This only comes from my ex-wife. I didn't understand why my daughter was turning on me like that, but by the time she got to be a teenager, it was really, really bad, guys. But just to let you know how quickly I got lucky and I was able to turn my life around. That happened, around Christmas in 2007. By 2009, I was able to go back to university to finish my degree. And because my income was basically zero for more than a year, I qualified for Pell Grants, free grant money from the government to go to university. And I was able to go and finish my degree. Trying to be a good dad, I chose to go to a local university so that I could continue to be close to my daughter and have a relationship with her. But that turned out to be a bad decision because I didn't learn all of the skills for filmmaking that I really wanted to learn. And it continued to be a struggle to be with my daughter, and the relationship didn't get any better. And by the time I graduated, I made the decision, you know what? I'm kind of done. I'm done with Louisiana. I'm done with America. I'm done with all the people there. I did have a few friends that were good, but overall, I was just very dissatisfied. And although I still had, and I still to this day, I have ongoing pain related to my surgery and my injury. That's never completely healed, and I have a massive scar to remind me of it. I was still okay to leave the U.S. So I decided that I want to go to Japan. However, you can't just go to Japan. You have to get a work visa. And I couldn't find a job. And I had a friend who was doing business in China. So I decided to go there. I spent 1 week in Tokyo just to see Tokyo. Then I moved to China. That was in, 2013? Yeah, that's right. February of 2013. I moved to Guangzhou in the south of China. I was there for about a year. I made some great friends there, but I had a terrible experience otherwise. I had so many things stolen from me, and I was like, man, China sucks. Because I thought that everywhere in China was the same. Everybody was just going to be trying to steal from me all the time. And I really struggled at that point in my life trying to rediscover myself, start my life over. And although I tried to continue to contact my daughter and speak with her, most of the time it was difficult and strained. She wasn't showing any interest. She never, ever took the initiative to call me or contact me. Never. It was always on me to do that. And every time I would do that, she would just treat me like garbage, just like the way her mom was treating me or had treated me before. So I didn't have much incentive to talk to my daughter, but I kept trying. After a year in Guangzhou, I tried to go to Japan. I spent 3 months in Tokyo looking for a job. Didn't work out. Went back to China, moved closer to Shanghai. That's where I stayed for over 5 years. Made wonderful friends, lifelong friends that I still have. So I do have a couple of really close friends. One particular friend who's super close to me that I made in Guangzhou. His name's Michael. And then another few friends in Taichung that are really close to me. I have such a great support group of friends in Taichung. It's my Chinese hometown, I guess you could say. And then I built my life back up. I had a lot of friends. I had a girlfriend there, and that didn't work out. And I got another girlfriend, and she and I were together for like 3 years, and that was a good relationship. Unfortunately, she didn't want to move to Japan with me, so we wound up not being together. But I was able to go work for a superstar in Beijing. I went to be the private English tutor of a boy band superstar in Beijing who was very famous. And it was a great job and it paid really well, but I was starting to feel that in my gut something was just coming down the pipe in China, and I needed to get to Japan as soon as possible. So finally, I got my visa. I'd saved up roughly $20,000 from working in Japan. I mean, working in China, and I had to pay for my own visa, which cost me a couple thousand with the lawyer fees and everything. It was pretty ridiculous that the company didn't pay for that, but I really felt like I needed to get out, and get to Japan. And it just so happens that right after I did, the pandemic started. And by the way, by that point, I'd started giving my daughter, while I was still in China, I was giving her several $100s a month. At first it was 300, then it was like 350, then it was $400. I was giving her that money every single month out of my savings. And when I was in Japan, the pandemic started, I was still giving her money for like a year. So all the way through that first year of the pandemic, I was giving her money, but our relationship wasn't getting better. She was still treating me like garbage. She wouldn't call me. She wouldn't message me. It was always me calling and messaging her. And I had an idea one day. I told my daughter, I was like, hey, I have an idea. You love games. You're playing games all the time with your friends and stuff. How about we do a gaming YouTube channel? Because she had a YouTube channel and she wanted to be successful on YouTube, but she also liked gaming. And I thought that would be a cool way for us to spend time together. I could get a headset. I had a good internet connection, a good computer. She and I could play games together, and we could have kind of like a daddy-daughter gaming YouTube channel. I thought it was a really cool idea. I still think it's a cool idea. But her response to me was so cold and hateful. And I decided at that point, why am I giving this girl money? Why am I calling her? Why am I putting so much effort into somebody who is clearly behaving like a narcissist and just abusing me? So I decided to make a choice. My daughter never calls, never messages, never says anything really positive towards me. She's just taking and taking and taking. What will happen if I just stop calling her? If I just stop messaging her? Will she reach out to me and ask me if I'm okay? Will she ask me, hey, is something wrong? Will she ignore me? What will she do? So I decided to stop sending her money and stop contacting her. I just cold turkey stopped. And a few months later, I hadn't heard anything from her, but a friend of mine messages me and says, there's a YouTube video on your daughter's channel. Have you seen that? So she didn't call to check on me or see if I was okay, but she made a music video. Not a video, but she made a video with her playing a song that she wrote. And the song is about what a horrible dad I am. So she used social media to draw a lot of sympathy and paint me as this horrible guy. And the video is still up as far as I know. And by the way, you can see it kind of sweating here. It's a little warm despite me having the AC and the fan on. But anyway, she wound up making two videos. One video where she does like a role play where supposedly she's speaking and I'm speaking. And she deleted that video, but I actually saved it. I still have it. I don't know why she deleted it, but I have it. I wanted to keep these things just in case I needed them later. And the music video, I believe, is still online. But essentially, she sang about a lot of lies and her skewed perspective on things. And I began to realize that my daughter, unfortunately, is becoming more and more like her mom. Compulsive liar, narcissistic, sociopathic. Very discouraging. Fast forward to after I left Tokyo, I didn't have any work. I moved to Hiroshima for a teaching position. And after about a year and a half or a little more of teaching, that's when I found out that I had cancer. And things started to go down for me physically from there. And I started to struggle. I let my family know, despite not really talking with them too much. During that time also, actually right before that time, my mom passed away. Right before I left for Japan, my mom had died of cancer, and my family was upset that I didn't fly all the way back to America, but nobody offered to help me financially to do that. and I didn't see any reason to do it. My mom doesn't care that I don't fly back to America for a funeral, but they cared. My mom was abusive, so you know, what's the point? I felt I had no reason to fly back for anybody's funeral in America. I just don't think it's necessary to spend all that money to go and dress up and be sad. I don't see any reason for that. But I did take a trip to Australia with a friend of mine to kind of honor my mom's memory a little bit. I can tell you about that some other time. It's not important to what's going on now to this video. But anyway, when my daughter found out about me having kidney cancer, she wanted to talk to me about that. I decided to tell her. I thought, we haven't talked and we've had these problems and whatever, but I should let her know and kind of put the ball in her court. She can do with it whatever she wants. She can say, well, too bad, so sad, enjoy your life. Or she can say, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I really hope you can get better. Can we talk? And at first, she sounded really, really like she had turned around. She started saying some very flattering things, and she broke down on the phone one day and started crying, or fake crying. Now that I look back on it, I know that she wasn't really crying. She was just giving that voice that's like this. It sounds like it's upset, but it's not really upset, that sort of thing. And she told me everything good about her comes from me, from her dad. All of her skills and positive traits and everything, it all comes from me. What an amazing thing to say. It sounded like the kind of things that she would say to me when she was little, because she used to say things like, she got upset one day and cried because she said she realized she couldn't marry me. She was like 5 years old. Super sweet, right? And she told me I was her favorite out of mom and dad, her mom and me. I was her favorite. She whispered it to me. She said, don't tell mom, don't make her upset. She would often say these things to me. We were super close. You have no idea. We did everything together, just me and her. But all of that just went away after her mom took her away. And then my daughter tells me over the phone, after we start to reconnect, by this time she was almost 22 years old. She was at the university and basically said, everything good about you about me comes from you. I don't know, this sounds like my daughter when she was little. But when she graduated university last year, during May of last year, I believe, I saw a video she sent to me of when she went up to accept her diploma or degree. And the name that they called out was not her name. And I'll put in the chat what I named my daughter. This is the name that I gave my daughter from my story, Alon. And this is actually a story that I'm completing right now. I'm working on it right now. I'm over 50,000 words, but I took kind of a break because I've been focused on study. But the original name of the little girl was actually Ella, and the name of the woman in the story was Alon. And then my ex-wife told me I should change those, because the woman turns out to be not such a great person. She basically yells at the main character and tells him off, and then later he dies, and she doesn't have the opportunity to make it right. So my wife said, well, you should really change those names. And at the time I thought, yeah, but the name Alon was just special to me because it's something I came up with. I didn't see it anywhere. And I thought, I'd like to have a daughter named Alon. And that's what I named her. But when they called her name out, when she accepted her degree, they didn't say Alon. They said some other weird name. I don't even remember what it was now. Some weird name. And when I think she didn't realize when she sent me the video that I would catch this. And so I messaged her about it, and she said, oh, I changed my name. No, I didn't know that. And do you mean just you picked the name, or did you legally change it? She said, oh, I legally changed it. And I said, I said, I really don't know what to say right now. I'm speechless. And she said, why? And I said, well, it bothers me. And she said, why would it bother you? Keep in mind, she knows that her name is special, that it came from a story I wrote. And I've told her many times throughout her life that is a special name that I had picked out just for my future daughter. And I was so happy that she had it and that she could take it and be whatever she wanted. And whatever she became would be the meaning of the name. Rather than the name already having a meaning that I'm putting on her, right? She can choose her path, and then that becomes the meaning of her name. That was my idea. But she suddenly pretends like she doesn't know why that would bother me. And I was very upset. I was at my house at my Kominka at the time, and I said, well, I'm going to have to think about this for a while before I say anything else. And she was like, okay. She blew it off. I waited 3 days before I talked to her again, and I spoke with some friends, some good close friends. I calmed down. I became at peace with my thoughts. And I messaged her, and this is basically what I said. I'm going to need you to do a couple of things because I'm fighting cancer. I'm not doing well, and I don't know how long I'm going to last, but I can't have abusive or negative relationships. So what I'm going to need you to do is two things. If you want to continue to have a relationship and communication with me, you're going to have to do two things. One is you got to take down the YouTube video that you made, the song about what a horrible father I am. You're going to have to delete that video. That's the first thing. The second thing is you're going to have to apologize for lying to me. And I mentioned several of the lies that she's told me over the years, but primarily with her name. She swore that I knew about it. She told me what my reality is. She said, I told you, you knew about this, you knew that, blah, blah, blah. None of those things were true, not even a little. And I said, you can't just gaslight me into believing what you want like your mom tried to do. That doesn't work on me anymore. It might have been when I was lesser and less confident, and believed in myself far less, but it doesn't work anymore. So you have to apologize for lying, take down the video. If you do those things, then we can continue to have a relationship, father-daughter relationship. But if not, I won't talk to you. And if you message me for any other reason, with any other messages other than to tell me I'm sorry for lying and I removed the video, then I will block you. She sent me this really long message, many messages. Didn't take any time to think about what I said, just immediately started lighting into me, verbally abusing me. And I said, if you message me one more time for any other reason than the two stated above, I will block you. And she was silent for a few days, and finally, maybe about 5 days later, she sent me a message, and it had a little smiley face on it, and it said, hey, Dad, how's it going? How are you feeling? Are you feeling okay to get today? Just wanted to check in. Love you. And put a smiley face. Like nothing had happened. So I just went in and I said, I told you my requirements, and now I will block you. I blocked her. I haven't talked to her since then. That's been over a year ago. I haven't talked to her in over a year. She can message me in other ways, like on Facebook or Instagram, if she really wanted to, but she hasn't. She did take time to go crying to my sister, or fake crying to my sister and some other people about how I wrote her off and I blocked her and she can't talk to me, but that's not true. She could message me on other ways. I just blocked her on Skype. She could message me on Instagram. She still has me as a friend on Instagram. She hasn't. She can find me on Facebook, but her mom actually had her block me many years ago when she first took her away. Why a child is even on Facebook, I don't know. But she put her on Facebook and then blocked me immediately. That's never been changed to this day, as far as I know. So she could message me. It doesn't fit her narrative to make her the victim to everybody else. So the truth is that my daughter has become and she's almost 24. She's going to be 24 soon. She has become a psychopathic narcissist like her mother, and I have nothing to do with her. So I don't have a daughter anymore. People say, well, there's always hope. Not with psychopaths. They don't change. And as difficult as it is, or as it was, it's not as difficult now as it used to be. The truth is that she has no part in my life. So there you go. I don't speak with my dad, my older brother, my younger sister, or my daughter. The only one in my family that I've spoken with is my aunt. We've had a very, very loose, distant, long distance relationship my entire life, mainly because of my family keeping us apart. But we have been able to communicate a little bit recently, and that's nice. But my friends have stepped in where my family has failed, and I would say that overall my life has been just primarily one long struggle. There's a lot of information I could give you in this video that I've left out, but maybe it's not necessary. I was kind of hoping to get most of this information out to you guys within 2 hours, and I was able to do that. For anyone who might come in and listen to this video later on, or for those of you who have listened to it this time, I hope that you can see that people have been through far less than this and have given up and ended themselves. And I came very close to doing that. You could say that I literally did give up. I did give up in 2007, 3 days before Christmas. And I was lucky enough to get another chance. And if you actually look online at some of the people, the majority, maybe even all, but the vast majority of people who make a serious attempt on their lives, which kills most people, like for example jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, that's something that ends most people as soon as they hit the water. But for those who actually survive, they regret it. There have been people I've seen on TV who've tried to burn themselves, and their entire bodies are burned, and they survived, and they regret it. But it changed their perspective, just like my perspective was changed. I'm a completely different person than I was back then. Granted, some traits and some characteristics or whatever are kind of consistent and stick around for most of our lives. But as it relates to not giving up and continuing to go forward even when things were difficult, and being able to realize that things are not as bad as they really seem, are really not as bad as they seem, that has been a big part of the change in my life. And if I'm able to get through that, plus so much more so much more of the details that you don't know, the things that have been told to me, the verbal abuse, the physical abuse, the lack of love in my life, the estrangement of my daughter, the hate coming from my own daughter, my only child, the changing of her name, the lying of it, the deliberate actions to hurt me by my family, the people that are supposed to love me the most, the very people that are supposed to love, support, and care for me the most, are the people that really attacked me the most. I still haven't had a long-term loving relationship with anybody. I did have, a decent relationship for a while with my last girlfriend in China, but she wasn't able to overcome her fear, marry me, and come to Japan with me. So it didn't work out. I did have a girlfriend here for a short time last year, maybe half a year or a little more. But after my trip to the hospital, she really changed. Her attitude about me and us really changed. She didn't like the fact that, number one, I wasn't making good money in a job already. And number two, that my health wasn't great. She literally told me on the Line app, she messaged me and she said, "Why don't you work harder?" Okay, I'm going to school learning Japanese and I'm battling cancer. Sometimes it's really difficult for me to even get out of bed. I can't even go to school some days. Now lately that's been a lot better, but back then I was struggling. And she told me, "Why don't you work harder?" It's been kind of a joke. It's become kind of a joke between me and a couple friends because they know about that. So sometimes they'll say, "Why don't you just work harder?" It's just a joke. But long story short, she and I were not fit to be together. It wasn't emotionally difficult to break up with her. I just thought that she was a lot better. I was hoping, rather. I didn't know for sure, but I was hoping she was a lot better than that. It turns out she wasn't. But I continue to have no good long term luck with somebody that I'm really into who's really into me. And so that's one of the reasons why I put the poll up. Let's take a look at it right quick. If reincarnation is real, then would you come back for another life on this earth? Probably not, and never is 0 and 0. Shocking. Definitely yes is 29%, 71%, perhaps it kind of depends. Where do I fall on this poll? Never. Once was enough. Once was enough. Yep, that's where I stand. I would not come back. And the reason is because I don't see, unless I knew for sure that I was able to have a completely different experience that would be really amazing. And I'm not saying completely without challenges, but man, sometimes it seems like a joke. I had just enough friends to help me stick around and stick it out. But between health issues and lack of good, healthy, loving, close relationships, not just the friendships, but I mean like a romantic partner, a child, a sibling, a parent. My God, give me one of those. Just give me one of those. And I haven't been able to have that. And so that's why I say that not in favor of coming back to a place like this. I'll do my best while I'm here. That's what I'm trying to do. But I will not be coming back. So how does this compare to my house? Well, my house is standing out there alone right now, and I feel bad about that. But at least I care. There's one person who cares about my house, and I hope some of you do. I know that some of you do, actually. But there's so much work that needs to be done, and that's the same as my life. It's in a precarious situation. If it doesn't get repaired soon, it's definitely going to fall. And that's like me. If I don't get repaired soon, I'm not going to last. But if repairs can be done and modifications made, it can not only last for many more decades, but also be a beautiful place that people want to go to and be around and visit, just like me. So I believe that with the recent renovations on the land by the city to improve the water flow and keep the house from getting damaged and eroded underneath, I think it's similar to the new medicine that I got. They happen once again around the same time, and this medicine has caused my pain to go down. It has made some other improvements in my side effects or my symptoms and effects of the anemia and the cancer. It's giving me a chance to possibly get to surgery, and this is the way I'm thinking right now, guys. If I'm able to get to surgery, if I'm able to actually have the surgery and get the kidney taken out, I feel like my body is essentially taken all of this trauma and all these negative things in my life and just put them in one place. And that's why my kidney has gone down. I've always had problems with my kidney ever since I was a kid. The same exact kidney where the cancer is. I had kidney infections when I was a kid. We were living, of course, all this animal feces and urine everywhere. And I believe because of that, that's why I got a kidney infection at a young age. I had massive kidney stones when I was a young man. Also very strange, very hurtful, very damaging. Caused a lot of pain in my kidney. And then, of course, a couple years ago, I get diagnosed with kidney cancer. I have tons of pain there. And so I feel like my body has just been kind of storing all of that negativity that's affecting my health, my thinking, my outlook on life, and all of that. And perhaps, just perhaps, when it's taken out, when it's gone, a lot of that negativity and outlook on life and negative feelings will disappear along with it. That's what I'm hoping. Kind of like my kidneys, taking it for the team, keeping everything trapped in there so that it doesn't spread to the rest of my body. We'll see. I've got a few comments here. Glenn says mental health is a massive problem that will only grow larger as the world becomes more divided. There are ways to live and survive all the world throws at us. You're right, and I study a lot, and I read about history and what's going on in the world, and so many people are still arguing on a very simple, basic level about politics and left wing and right wing and Democrat and Republican or this candidate and that candidate. But that's so shallow. None of that matters. What matters is who really controls what's going on in the world. And the fact is, there's a very small group of people who control the money in most all the countries. As a result, they also control all of the main businesses, the media, most of the media, and that means news, newspapers, TV, and entertainment. All of that. And that's why we see so many countries right now on fire with these ridiculous communistic style ideas that the majority don't subscribe to, but they are getting all of the attention and they're getting all of the representation and all of the propaganda right out there in our faces. And it's really threatening to destroy every culture on earth. It really is. And they're doing it by dividing us, making us point fingers at each other, all the while claiming diversity, but they're not. That's not diversity. Diversity is every group is different, but we all get along and we're unified. That's what diversity should be like. But there is a group, and I can't say who they are because I'll get attacked by people because they don't understand it. For my really close friends, you and I can talk about it, but I won't talk about it on this channel. It's not the place for it. It's definitely not the topic of this video. Just suffice to say that the people who control the money and control all the media, those are the ones that are behind it. All this cultural nonsense that's going on. Philippe says, I'm unreasonably optimistic, so I chose definitely. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you're optimistic and you have a good outlook on it. I wouldn't say that my outlook is pessimistic on coming back to have another life. It's just that life itself is flawed in that you have to go through pain and suffering and disease and loss of others and things like that. So there are a lot of things that I've had to go through personally, the abuse and the trauma. I'm just not interested in going through that again. It's just a realistic, common sense kind of thing. It's just, I don't care for it. You try something, you don't like it. If you can choose another option, then that's for me. I don't look at it any different than trying a certain type of food or watching a type of movie or whatever. If I don't really enjoy it, or if it's uncomfortable for me or distasteful, I'd rather just not have seconds. Brother in arms, we will get you through this moment. Appreciate that, bro, and I do look forward to seeing you arrive again within the next half year. Hopefully this time I'll be feeling good and be very active and able-bodied so that we can do something, man. It would be really nice. There's so much to do, not just at the house, but in other areas, and there are so many places that could be visited or seen. But I think for right now, I'll just end the video with this final statement. If any of you guys have any questions or comments, I'd appreciate you dropping them into the chat. But once the video ends, you can always put them in the comment section below. I don't know if you saw it in my introductory video. I do have a link. I just have one link right now under this video, so if anybody wants to make any donations, you can use my PayPal. The reason I prefer that over like super chats and anything through YouTube is because YouTube takes like 55%. So even if somebody were to send me $100 as a super chat, which would be amazing, I'm only going to get $45 of that. YouTube is very stingy when it comes to giving money to the creators. The creators get less than half of everything that comes through, even the advertisement money. It's absolutely insane. PayPal, on the other hand, only takes like a 3.5% cut, which I still think is high, but it's not 55%. So just so you're aware of that. And now that I've got that out of the way, let me close this first. End the poll. Those are the end results of the poll. So I'm the only one that says never, or even probably not. But I can understand why. I just want to say now, thank you guys for joining me, or whether you were, what is Kohi like? Oh, like Kofi? Is that what you're talking about, Glenn? The Kofi donation. Actually, I think they changed that. I might still have that link on my website. Philippe, I don't know. You might know better than me, but didn't they change Kofi recently? Was it Kofi that they changed? One of these they changed. Somebody else bought them or something. They changed them somehow. Let me log in right quick. I do actually believe I have I know I have a Kofi account. But I thought they changed. I'm taking a look at it now. Okay. Well, yeah, I actually do. Yeah, I have a link. Let me put this in the stream just so you can have it. Yeah, this is my Ko-fi link. So apparently it is still active. The website's still active. I don't know if it was Ko-fi or another website, but they went through some changes. They were bought by another company, and they made some changes. I got a lot of emails about it, but I didn't pay too much attention. I just haven't been putting the links under my videos consistently. But then again, I haven't uploaded many videos. But it is there. I don't know what the... fees are. Let's see. Don't see. Ko-fi fees. You can just type that into the browser. 5%, it looks like. 5% flat fee. So there you go. Ko-fi, this Ko-fi has a 5% flat fee. So if you were to send me $100, I'd get 95. As far as I know, PayPal is never really any higher than like 4.5, but I think it's around 3.5%. So there you go. I know that some people hate PayPal for various reasons, and I get that. But to be honest, avoiding the super chat is preferred simply because of the massive amount of money that YouTube gets. I don't care for ABC, a Google company, and what they've been doing in their censorship and their propaganda, but the last thing I want to do is for you guys to send over half of your donation to Google. That, God forbid that they get more money than I do. I know that they're providing a platform, but if I really put my mind to it, I could create my own live stream on my own website if I wanted to put the money and the time into that. So it's not like I couldn't do it without YouTube. But might as well use the platform while it's here, and hopefully hope for the best. Just to be like Philippe, be positive, and hope that things will get better, and believe that those things will work out. But anyway, the positive comments, any help that you guys can throw at me, I appreciate that. I'm thinking about changing my membership to just have one main membership, where it's like $5 a month, something really simple, or maybe even my Patreon, just have one thing offered, $5 a month, and just straight across the board, changing all of those things to be very simplified, because if if I have a decent amount of followers and I'm able to continue to make good content, my health gets better, I get more time. I'm going to be in school until March of next year if everything goes as planned. I'm supposed to finish my Japanese studies at the end of March next year. Who knows what I'm going to be doing for work at that time, and how much money and time I'm going to be able to spend at my Kominka, but I do hope that I'm able to continue to put some nice, or not continue because lately there hasn't been any content, but I do hope in the future I'm able to give you guys some nice content. Ko-fi is easier to use. Okay. Well, PayPal is super easy because you follow that link that I put, the link that I put in my my description is my paypal.me link. And if you follow that link, anyone can donate quickly, even with a card. It's super fast, but I can understand if people prefer Ko-fi. It's all good. But that's it for now. Love you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Some of you guys who were here for quite a while, especially Glenn. You're the OG, man. So thank you very much. I hope to see you again. Moving forward from now on, I do hope that I can put up some more interesting things here and there. I'll do my best. And that's it for now. I was about to say enjoy your weekend, but I had to check and make sure what day it is. It is Friday here. So for some of you, maybe it's still Thursday. But either way, enjoy your upcoming weekend, and I hope you have a wonderful time with loving people who care about you, that you care about, and that your life is wonderful, continues to get better and better. And looking forward to seeing you again. I need to go in here and in my live stream. But as always, arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you, and John ne. Bye bye.